Good morning and welcome to another exciting episode of Creative Voices. We are at episode number 20, if you can believe it. And I have in studio with me a fantastic episode on all things blue economy. So we also have joining us Dr. Yvette Smith-Johnson, who is based in Jamaica. We'll also expect Tikoya Connor, who's right here in the studio. And we have apologies from Miss Tricia Grayo. And I just want to start off the program with a great big shout of gratitude to Tracy, who is also part of the Creative Bougainvillea family, for making this panel possible. We're really very keen on learning more about this very important part, not only of our ecosystem, but also of our economy. So if you're new to the program, Creative Voices is a show which we highlight creative thinking, problem solving, thoughts, and we are very solutions-based and solutions-oriented. And we know from our research that people with creative mindsets tend to be very problem-solving and solutions-oriented in the way that they approach their work. So it gives us an opportunity to spotlight what's happening in St. Kitts, to showcase the talent that we have in St. Kitts and Nevis and the wider region. And we would not be able to do that without our fantastic, fabulous, awesome, most wonderful, and long-standing sponsors. So at the top of every show, and I forgot to introduce myself yet again, I am Dr. Sarah Owen, and I am your host for this program. We air every fortnight, so every other Friday. And this first hour is made possible by our good friends at Flow. It's another Flowtastic Friday, so please check them out, see what they have on offer. Rams, the good food people, we always have wonderful things, wonderful specials. So stay tuned to these ads because you're going to find out what is happening at Rams that is extra special this weekend. It's Friday. So, stop by at any of the Rams outlets and get something exciting and yummy and delightful and celebratory to have on your nice, fantastic Friday. We also want to give gratitude to TDC. We'll hear from them in a moment as well. And they're usually on the hour preceding us also. So together we achieve. That is TDC's motto, a long-standing company rooted right here in St. Kitts, all of us working together to achieve great things. So we're going to take a break, hear from our sponsors, and then we'll be back. Good morning. You are tuned in to Creative Voices. We'll be right back.
Found the sound, 98.9 winnfm.
More than 42 million cars from 19 different car companies are being recalled for faulty airbag inflators. Repairs are fast, easy, and free. The problem isn't with the airbag, it's with the airbag inflator. Because the inflator can rupture, shooting shrapnel through the airbag, which can cause serious injury or even death. Don't risk it, fix it.
Please contact TDC Automotive Division to find out if your Toyota vehicle is affected by the Takata airbag recall. Visit or call us at 465-2511 in St. Kitts or 469-5430 in Nevis.
Benefit
Good morning and welcome back to another exciting episode of Creative Voices. We are at episode 20 already, so very many thanks to those who have stuck and stayed with us from the beginning. I know that there are some of you out there listening, and also our gratitude to those who have recently joined our Creative Voices family and those who are tuning in today for the first time. We're going to be diving in, all puns intended, to the blue economy today. So good morning, Thema. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine, thank you.
Wonderful. And we also have Dr. Yvette Smith-Johnson joining us from Jamaica. Dr. Smith-Johnson, are you hearing me?
I am hearing you quite fine. Thank you so much. And good morning, St. Kitts and Nevis.
Wonderful. And we are hearing you as well. So it is wonderful to have you both in studio with us. As I said at the top of the program, we are also expecting Tikoya Connor to join us, and we have apologies from our very own Kittitian mermaid Tricia Greo, who is unable to join us this morning, but really is the stalwart who made all of this dialogue today possible. So we want to extend gratitudes to Tracy, who is a marine biologist. Thema, I have here that, well, you're going to tell us more about the Beacon Award, I hope, as we continue along, but we are really excited to hear from both of you and Tikoya when she arrives, a bit more about the blue economy, what it means to you, where your journey in the blue economy started, and in our little prelude to this live conversation, I know that you are not only a blue economy lover, a green economy lover as well. So you have your feet firmly planted on the ground and perhaps a few mermaid fins as well. So Thema, we'll start with you, and then Dr. Yvette Smith-Johnson. Is it okay if I call you Yvette?
It's fine.
Thank
I love Yvette.
All right, wonderful. Okay, so Thema, we'll start off with you because this is a term that has recently come into play for a lot of us within the region. So we see countries like Barbados introducing a ministry of the blue economy, that type of thing. And we use it maybe when we think about it in a very narrow sense perhaps, but for each person who is an actor within that particular space, you'll have, maybe it has a different definition for you personally in terms of how you engage in the space, in the sector. So as we explore what traditionally the blue economy has come to be defined as, we're also really interested in finding out what it means to you. So can you tell us a little bit about your own journey in the blue economy? And it's a storytelling show, so don't be bashful, and we don't want any one sentence, one word answers. So you can tell us your story, how it began, how it continued, where we are now.
Okay. I grew up in a small village in Nevis, very close to the ocean. My grandfather was a fisherman. In fact, my uncles, cousins, their last name is very known to be top-notch in fisher folk.
Okay.
So I wanted to go and do fishing, but unfortunately I was a girl, so it was a no. But I always was curious what is in the sea. Even though I wasn't a strong swimmer, I always was curious. So that has always stayed with me. I always still loved going to the beach, but I also have a passion for the land as well. My background itself, I have a bachelor's in environmental geography, but my master's is in maritime, and I specialize with ocean sustainability, governance, and management. My past life, I also did air drum control and a meteorological technician.
Say that again, you did something control. What's that?
Air drum control, like air traffic,
Okay.
and meteorological technician. So I always had a passion
Okay, so
for
you're
geography.
in the sky as well. So you're on the land, you're in the sea, but you're also in the sky. Wonderful.
Very broad base.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you really have a very holistic approach to environment
Yeah.
because you're considering it. But I'm interested in a couple of things that you said. If you can just expand on you mentioned that you had a passion for the sea, but you also had an interest in fishing. But passion for the sea, did that extend beyond the fishing? What did that translate to? How did that feel for you when you were a child or when you were growing up and
just curious what was on there.
What was under?
Yeah, it's like, is it just fish? Love to eat what is there. I could have just asked my grandfather, I get what I want. I was spoiled in that way. But I was always curious. You watch all the movies or National Geographic of little creatures there, and you're like, is that here? Do we get to see that? Do I get to see a turtle? Who they come up? What about dolphins? So that kind of stuff. And it has grown over the years. I have helped taking part of help assisting getting beach whales back into the sea as well through the years. So it has always stayed with me.
Okay, excellent. And you, as I'd mentioned at the start of this question, we recently introduced the Tricia Griot Ocean Governance Beacon Award, and you are the winner for Nevis. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And can you tell us a little bit about the work that perhaps influenced that award-winning decision?
Well, the award itself was geared towards women who were in the sector, been there for a long time professionally. They do advocacy work, have a passion for the job. So it's basically giving back to the person who's in that field for all their achievements and commitment, their passion and their success. Like saying, hey, we notice you. You're not overlooked. Yes, it's been years, but I see you.
Yeah.
So it's basically down that line.
Okay, I like that. And we definitely see you today. And I mean, it's just been, folks who are listening, tuned in, it's just been a brief conversation so far with Thema. And I have to also say that as we were preparing for the show, I was getting this repeated refrain, Thema is in the field, Thema is in the field, Thema is always in the field. So this is a hard-working woman as it relates to the environment in Nevis and the wider federation, I'm sure.
I'm sorry for that.
No, don't be sorry. I love it. I'm actually applauding you for
I
it.
was dealing with some students, sixth form students,
Yes.
In terms of field trip. So we were in the Camps River watershed. It's part of the protected area in Nevis. And so we were highlighting, for those that were in the geography field in the group, highlighting the plants and the bushes that are medicinal or, traditional stuff that you can use. And compared to the bracing sticks, the trees that are used for those, for the fishing pots. So I was highlighting them as well, like kakanga root, that they're not accustomed to, that hear about it, and you let them know, well, some use it medicinal, it's put in your drinks, that kind of stuff. So it's like highlighting the plants, so it's just not, hey, we're going on a field trip. It's highlighting this area is protected, it's in here is a natural spring, but also here are these plants that grows naturally, and these are what they used for.
Okay, you have touched on a number of things that I am going to jump back into as we go along, because these are all really very interesting and very important to understanding how our ecosystem is important, not just for economic gains, not just for preservation of the environment, but how that interacts, how we can interact with the ecosystem and how the ecosystem can be healing to us. So we're going to hop now to Jamaica. Yvette, how are you?
I am good, thank you.
All
I know
right.
you're enjoying the same sunshine I'm enjoying.
It's funny, I was just about to ask you about the weather in Jamaica, so we're of like mind. That's great. So we've been hearing a bit from Thema in terms of her work and what this blue economy means to her, and how she comes from a long legacy of fishermen. I do also find it very interesting that you were interested in fishing, but you said that because you were female, that was not really a path that was open to you. So maybe we'll get back to that. And we also have our phone lines, I should have said, that are open, so people can call in at 466-0908, 662-0989, and if you're in the UK, you can call in at 033-344-0065. And for those in the US and Canada, 305-921-4619 or 718-285-6984. So, Yvette, what is your story, your journey with the blue economy? When did it start? How did it continue? Where is it now? Of course, in all of this, you're going to have to tell us all about WEMAC and what that is and what that's all about. But we'll get to that in the ending bit, but the beginning bit. Tell us a little bit about that, please.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and thank you for having me on. Um, so far, for me, blue economy is about the sustainable use of our ocean resources, and we're talking about thinking about regional and national growth, jobs, the resilience of our territories. How did I start? Well, truthfully, in Jamaica, where I'm from, as a child, I never thought of the ocean unless we were going to take a beach trip, as we would call it, in our neck of the woods. We'd go off to the sea to frolic and play. But as I am an educator, and I've been at the Caribbean Maritime University for, I think this is my going my 19th year. That's a bit. But one
Congratulations.
of the things, thank you. I just as I'd love to, I want to congratulate Thema on the amazing work she's doing. Um, as we are in the territories, we have what we call a maritime education and training institution here in Jamaica that started 40 years. Well, we are now 43 years old. When we started in 1980 thereabouts, Jamaica owned 5 ships, and so we were looking for staff to train people to man our vessels. About 4 years after the school started, with the enablement of the Kingdom of Norway, Jamaica divested those ships. We don't own ships anymore, but we have stayed our ground in maritime education for 40 years. So, what is it that we're doing? What we are doing is that we are staffing a global workforce. And we realize that we can't train people here at CMU quick enough for the industry to gobble them up. And so, at some juncture, we had to pause to look at the ocean that drives the industries for which we are creating the workforce. And we realized that sustainability was never really strong on our agenda. Sustainability became a mandate driven by the IMO, driven by the various NGOs that say, hey, look, if we don't take care of the sea that takes care of us, then we are bound for failure as economic and other failure as nation states in the Caribbean. There are only about 3 or so territories that are not totally surrounded by water. I think Belize, Guyana, and Suriname, that are Caribbean nations. All of the rest of us are fully surrounded by the sea, and yet we do not take a moment to build out a maritime consciousness. And I call it consciousness, and the people who handed the thought to me call it a maritime conscience. Because unless we are thoroughly aware of what we have in the beautiful aquamarine, and as our friends in St. Lucia call it, the cerulean sea that is around us, then we are not realizing that much of our sustained viability is linked to the sea. So I got in here as an educator who has been given an opportunity to see the maritime business in several spaces internationally and regionally, and understand that unless we take care of it, it won't take care of us. In 2015, we had two Jamaican women who decided to do a paper for their alma mater, which is the World Maritime University in Malmo, Sweden, to see where the graduates, the female graduates, were across the region. And so they reached out to their people, and they found that a lot of women right across the region who had either graduated from WMUR, from the International Maritime Law Institute, IMLE, in Malta, were the linchpins of maritime business across the region. But a number of those women were not necessarily at the top of the organization, or they weren't celebrated for the work they were doing. And so they realized, those two ladies, Vivette Grant and Claudia Grant, that under the IMO gender program, the gender program that is advanced by the International Maritime Organization, there is a critical support mechanism called the Women in Maritime Association that was at that time across 5 or 6 regions of the world, from sub-Saharan Africa to the Pacific areas to the Arabic regions of the world. And they said, look, the Caribbean needs that kind of support for women in maritime also. And so in 2015, I was invited to join women across 17 territories in the Caribbean, which would be the 15 CARICOM countries and 1 or 2 overseas territories. And so you know that St. Kitts was there. And we met in Jamaica, and we crafted the Articles of Association for a Women in Maritime Association of our own in the region. It was ratified by the IMO, and support was given by all the nation states. And we now have celebrated 10 years of being the
Ah,
fifth.
congratulations.
Oh, we're wonderful. And can I tell you, thank you for the congrats. I want to tell you that Tricia served 2 terms as the vice president, as a vice president with the governing council of WEMAC. Because though we
Excellent.
have all these territories, there's a 9 member GC who ensures that the mission of WEMAC is distilled to the different spaces. And in our last service world, she was the vice president of marketing and public relation. But I call her the VP of excitement because this is my
That's a
second
fair
term.
title.
And yes, once she says in, it gets very sprinkle sparkles. And so, but what we really do is that we say to women, the IMO has strategic initiatives on it, which is recognition, um, capacity development, and networking. And then we have being driven by what we call the national chapters. So in the 15 CARICOM territories, we have established fully 8 national chapters where, so Antigua, Jamaica, Trinidad, and St. Kitts is now on board because Tricia is delivering that with FEMA and all the other amazing ladies. I have met some beautiful people from the St. Christopher and St. Barth Port Authority and Calvin. We're not feminists, so people like Calvin Cummins is right there saying, let's get this done. But what we want to do is that ensure that there is a community of especially women, because the men have always been at the table. Pirates of the Caribbean don't have many women in the script, but the women, we want them to equip our women to participate meaningfully. And where there are people like Tricia and FEMA, we want to hold them up as standards for young ladies to say that lawyer, doctor, Indian chief, but you can do that in the maritime sector also. And this is important that we are no longer labeling ourselves small island developing states. We are calling ourselves rightfully maritime states like Jamaica, like St. Kitts, Nevis, like all of us that have this large ocean resource. It's time for education to kick in, and we have to be very systematic and deliberate about education so people can know what they can become. But not only that, people can know that if the LNG tanker doesn't come into our ports, then we have no electricity because few of us have oil. If the roads don't come in, then our vessels don't come in, or our cars don't come in. If we don't have the bulk carriers, then some of the grains that we enjoy, they do not come in. And I did my first cruise just last month, and I just missed Tricia by a hair because she was very busy. But when we docked in your cruise port, and I got to go around well, I didn't get to Nevis, because the ship would leave me. But I got to see St. Kitts because I was on a cruise ship. And we recognize that this is an amazing resource, the ocean, and we have to protect it. So blue ocean for me, blue economy, is about using the ocean resources to drive national and regional growth by way of jobs, food safety, water safety, and general productivity. And it's a gospel that we have to preach every day. Yes.
Yeah, that I mean, I am so intrigued by the various, both of you so far have demonstrated to us, even in such a short time, how important the blue economy, the maritime industries are in terms of survivability economy. And it's something that often when we think of food security, for example, we think of the land, but there's another component to the food security. And we've seen over time in the Caribbean where certain countries have had to introduce seasons for things like sea eggs, lobster, because of overfishing, snapper, lionfish. So there's a lot that I know we're going to unpack, because what happens is, there are certain things that affect your life. There are certain things that are in the public space in terms of conversation, but we are only able to scratch the surface because we don't fully understand it. So I'm hoping that in today's conversation, we can continue to really unpack a lot of this. And Yvette, there's something that you said that I had written a note I was going to ask you all about, and you touched on it when you referred to the term maritime states. I hadn't heard that term before, but I had heard on one occasion when now King Charles visited St. Kitts, he made a speech, and during that speech he said that, and I'm sure that this had been said somewhere else before, but it was the first time I heard it, which is why I make that reference. But he said that he had not looked at the Caribbean as a collection of small island developing states, but instead as large ocean states.
Yes.
So, there are also a lot of people, and I've had the opportunity to interact with people who prefer actually to domicile themselves, so sort of live in the ocean or with the ocean as opposed to the land as well. In that case, they are very much part of a large ocean environment, docking when necessary, in a terrestrial spot where they can, at whatever needs to be done, legally replenish food, whatever the case may be. But, that's another way of living. And in fact, I have a few other stories to tell, which we'll jump into after the break, because I have to always remember our sponsors, because they're so very important to our existence here at Creative Voices. So we're going to take a break, because can you believe that we're already at 10:33? So a quarter of the program has gone already. So if you're tuned in, stay tuned in. It's only going to get more and more exciting as we go along. So we're going to hear from Rams, the Good Food People, TDC, Together We Achieve, and it's another Flotastic Friday. So with that, we'll go to a break and we'll be right back.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
More than 42 million cars from 19 different car companies are being recalled for faulty airbag inflators. Repairs are fast, easy, and free. The problem isn't with the airbag, it's with the airbag inflator. Because the inflator can rupture, shooting shrapnel through the airbag, which can cause serious injury or even death. Don't risk it, fix it.
Please contact TDC Automotive Division to find out if your Toyota vehicle is affected by the Takata airbag recall. Visit or call us at 465-2511 in St. Kitts or 469-5430 in Nevis.
Welcome back to Creative Voices. If you're just tuning in, I am your host, Sarah Owen, and I have in studio with me today Blue Economy Practitioner Extraordinaire, Thema, joining us from Nevis, and we also have via the World Wide Web, joining us from Jamaica, we also have Dr. Yvette Smith Johnson. So we've been learning. I'm particularly interested in both of you, if you could tell me a little bit more about the program. So there's such a wealth of information that you gave me in your answers to my very first question, that there's a lot to unpack there for our listeners as well. So I'm also an educator. So my, first question coming out of that dialogue is going to run to education, because Thema, you were mentioning that when you were in the field, and I had said to you off air that I was trying to imagine where in the field you were. So you shared with us a little bit about that. But it was to support students, you said, in Cape students, right?
Yeah, sixth form.
Yeah. So can you tell us, because there may be people who are listening who are interested in geography, environmental science, and so on, but you're not exactly sure what the curriculum will entail or what type of, this sounds very dynamic, very exciting, that they would actually have those types of field trips where you go into the mountains perhaps, or I imagine there may be components where you go along the coastline as well. What subjects are these that relate to the environment? Because it may be beyond the obvious choices as well. Maybe history and so on also have a component of this type of study, I'm not sure. And what type of field trips do you engage in with these students and so on?
Well, I have my contacts with high school and sixth form teachers that are in environmental science as well as the geography sector.
Okay.
So any topics on mangroves or biodiversity that deals with land and sea have been brought in to give lessons, show them a lot of pictures of stuff that they may not know existed. Okay. We have a lot of wetlands in Nevis. Many have been overlooked. So you highlight the importance of the mangroves, the different types of mangroves that we have. In fact, up to last week, I actually came here to St. Kitts to teach at a Easter camp. It was for a NGO, what is it called again? I'm trying to remember it now. It's going to come to...
It will come to you when you stop thinking about it, and then we can just plug it right back in.
So they did several cohorts. I was originally part of the cohort as a student when they first launched. And the second time around, I became a lecturer.
Okay, excellent.
and
the student shall become the teacher, as they say.
Yes. And so since then, I have been tapped occasionally to teach the topic of mangrove. And the kids' age had ranged from, I think the youngest might have been 8, all the way up to 16, 17, as well as take them on a field trip here in St. Kitts and highlighted the areas where they can be found. So it very was interesting. They got to see what we taught in class, and they got to experience and tell them the importance of what is there, and unfortunately why we're losing some of these important plants. So in terms where was the other day, that's for the environmental studies group for sixth form, but there were a few agriculture students. They were very curious about an area where they, quote unquote, wild pineapples, and it was letting them know it was actually a farmer who had planted
and they thought it was growing wild,
but it was abandoned. So the area is abandoned for maybe way over 10 years. So it's more this the wild, but I'm like, monkeys are eating those. So they also wanted to track that trail. So I said, I'll let them know based on the time. They were late, so based on the time, we could do it. I could even do it on a Saturday. Just let me know. It's also teaching them the little stuff that are there. Some never knew most of these plants. Right nowadays, you're accustomed to, if you get a conky, it's in a banana leaf. There's actually a plant called conky leaf.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
and that's the old school traditional way.
Mm-hmm.
You wrapped up your conky in
In a
as
conky leaf.
they're very
And that comes from
broad.
what
We call it the
plant? A
conky
conky
tree.
plant. Conky tree. Okay, okay.
Yeah. So it can grow very tall, and the leaves are very broad. So if you're in the bushes, as we say, pasture, and it's summer, and the berries and the grapes are out, you just roll it up and put your stuff in there. You're good to go.
And some traditional food, because in fact what I thought you were going to say is that because there's some traditional food that is cooked and steamed in banana leaf that we're seeing now being done in tinfoil. So you might
weird.
yeah, so you've gone from the conky leaf to the banana leaf to the foil.
soils.
So
And I would not recommend the foils.
no, I agree with
No.
you. I agree with you entirely. So, you mentioned terms like mangroves and wetlands. And Yvette, I'm going to jump to you because I had the opportunity while in Jamaica. I used to work with the University of the West Indies, so I had the opportunity to visit the Caribbean Maritime University. And I think you do a tour of the mangroves. Not so? Have we lost Yvette? We may have.
I'm here.
Ah.
I don't know if you're hearing me.
I'm hearing you now, yes. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm not hearing. Are
I
you?
missed your question.
Oh, yes. I was saying
I
that
missed your question
my
when we-
yeah. Do you do the Caribbean Maritime University is located in proximity to mangroves in Kingston, not so?
It's in Kingston.
Yes. And does the university offer tours of the facility and the mangroves and so on? You have some type of outreach component like that?
Well, we do offer tours of the facility, but unlike what FEMA does with more of the biological aspect, that is the domain of the University of the West Indies.
Okay.
We remain a little niche, a little nuanced to maritime business.
Okay.
Because we're too small to cannibalize the UE Mona with the marine biology program.
Right.
So what we offer is the shipping end of business. Well, we offer programs at the undergraduate level in marine transportation and marine engineering, which is for the seafarers of the ilk who take the vessels to sea. So marine transportation, marine engineering. And then we offer the entire suite of professional certification that the IMO requires from seafarers. So we do all the IMO short courses and some customized short courses for those people who need it. But on the business side, we offer 5 degrees. We offer a Bachelor of Science in Marine Tourism and Cruise Ship Management. Not trying to do tourism land-based stopover because two other universities are into that kind of preparation. We offer one in port management. Nobody else does that. So we single-handedly prepare people for port work, and that is portably can be taken across the region and to some extent it can scale up for when they prepare themselves with a higher degrees to serve elsewhere. We offer one in um, logistics and supply chain management because that in itself is big enough to have and as an area of study. And we also have a Bachelor of Science in Security Studies because we realize that we have to have, and that is discrete from our Border Operations Management Bachelor, which gives us customs processing and immigrations. And so we try to stay in that niche, but we do prepare people. We have students coming from all over. We've had students from St. Kitts. Um, we also have 3 graduate programs, one in security, one in engineering, and a Master of Science in logistics and supply chain management. And we do have regional people in those programs too. One of the good things about our region, and we can safely say that in September, we're rolling out a professional doctorate in the maritime areas, and people can select from a menu of blue economy and sustainable shipping, logistics and supply chain management, security, maritime education and training. And we have I think there's one area that I'm not remembering now, but we do that because we do not want to cross over into the other spaces, but we know that we have sufficient to train here. And one of the good things, Sarah, is that the region is very rich in maritime trainers. We have the LJM Maritime Academy in the Bahamas that prepares seafarers for that, out of the Bahamas. And shipping is the linchpin of economy in the Bahamas, so that's important. We have the Caribbean Maritime University here in Jamaica. We have in Trinidad and Tobago, we have the Chaguaramas campus of the University of Trinidad and Tobago that deals with the twinning of the marine biology component and the general seafaring courses that we do. We have Matpal Marine and Atlantic Alliance Institute in Guyana. And in between, I think every port or authority does its own training for what is important, especially the Eastern Caribbean states, where you do a lot of ferrying,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah, as you
Sailing
mentioned
and
that,
those things have to become key in education.
because to your point about us being maritime states, it really is important that we
I think that's
yeah, that we solve the issue that we have in terms of utilizing the sea the sea is used for transportation by cruise ships all the time, by shipping companies to bring things in all the time, but for us to use it as a mode of transportation, we just haven't been able to get
yes.
this system down back to what it perhaps was in the 60s or so. I hear about that being a little more efficient then. Yeah, but both of you use terms that, for our listeners, because again, these are some of the terms that I was saying that, we may scratch the surface because we may use them, I may use them, for example, and not fully understand what it means. So a term like mangrove is used, people use that word generally, there's an understanding, but it may be limited in terms of exactly, and this is for either of you, what can you define like mangroves, wetlands, and why they are important? Because I did geography. It was a subject that I loved doing in secondary school. I did it for CXC way back when. Part of what I loved about it was that I really liked to draw, and it was one of the only subjects I was doing where you got to draw a lot. So,
Yes.
but I remember learning about the mangroves, and it stuck with me. The important plate tectonics and mangroves stuck with me from and rivers. They stuck with me because they are so. Water is powerful. So when the water decides to move in a particular way, that is very that can be destructive and constructive for us as humans inhabiting this earth. So if you can tell us about, define for our listeners, either of you, or maybe you want to take one each. We could start with
I'll give
mangrove
it
and
to
wetland.
FEMA because I
FEMA.
feel like that is her local standard, as my lawyer friends would say.
Don't worry, I'm going to come back to you with another one, Yvette, so you won't get off the
No
hook.
problem, no problem.
Okay, great.
Oh, well, in terms of making it easy to understand, these are vegetation trees that you find along the coastlines itself, and they're able to handle the salt content. So they basically be bashed by the seawater, stilled by the fresh water itself. You find them in the wetlands along the coastline, what we call ponds here as well. So ponds and wetlands, they're more
So a
interchangeable.
wetland is a space between land and sea where
It is.
fresh and salt water
Yes.
merges.
So it's more brackish.
brackish.
Yes. And there are three main types, and then there's the cousin type that I will call. And so here in St. Kitts, you have the white, the black, and the red. In Nevis, you mostly have the white and the red. The cousin.
But no, we have to unpack that first because I don't know who is white, who is black, and who is red.
Okay.
So I thought red was a cousin, to be honest. So I thought we already had
red
a cousin.
was a cousin.
All right, so we didn't get to the cousin yet. So who do we have in the immediate family here, white, black, and red?
Yeah, so let me see. I'm trying to remember where. So in St. Kitts, you can, let's see, where Shipwreck area is. Or, yeah. Yeah, that's where.
So
that
white
was
is
the call.
referring to what? Like the color of the sand or something?
No, no, no.
What is white
So
referring to?
white, you can tell the white mangrove based on the leaves itself,
Or the
the
mangrove.
shape of
Oh, so
the
we're in
leaves.
mangrove now.
Yeah,
So
the
mangrove,
shape
a
of-
mangrove is within the wetlands.
Yes.
It's the plant that will grow within a wetland environment.
easily. They can handle the salt content. In fact, it helps in
I'm
terms
with
of
you now.
exchange of the salt,
Right.
as well as they are carbon absorbers.
Okay.
In terms of they taking the CO2, gives out the oxygen. So most wetlands around here, you can find different creatures. Around here, you'll find like the ducks, the seabirds. In Nevis, you'll find like the fishes, like mountain mollusks, like fishes that you're not, well, we're accustomed to our ocean-based fish. So those who are accustomed to more like the freshwater fish, from those are brothers and sisters from like Guyana and such.
Okay.
So we have certain fishes like mountain mullet, inshore lizardfish, pond snook. So you'll be able to see these fish.
Can you eat those? Those
People do
wetland
eat
fish?
them. People do eat them.
Okay.
And tilapia.
Yes.
Back in the 80s, most of the wetland in both St. Kitts and Nevis, a program put tilapia in it. So
Okay.
I'm not too sure if they still exist around here, but most wetland did have tilapia. You could still find in Nevis tilapia.
I'm also asking this question for a very personal reason because I was having this conversation with my son about wetland fish and whether they're edible or not. And
They're edible.
I was of the view that I'm not eating them. He's of the view that you can eat them.
You can
so
eat them.
now we
You
have the
can-
professionals telling us
But
the
it's
truth.
illegal to fish in the ponds.
Okay,
it's
okay.
most ponds should have had signs that says it's
Say that.
illegal to fish there, but
And that's to protect. That's not because the fish are dangerous to eat, but it's to protect the ecosystem to make sure that they're not
because,
overfished.
the adult fish comes into the wetland and spawn. Yeah, so it's like
So they need to be open to the sea.
Yeah.
They're coming in.
So so
Okay.
most of the wetlands they are able to access back into the sea. They're very open, but there are times when because of a storm they can be cut off. And you wait for like this massive storm that brings all these water down that burst upon, or humans burst upon. So we've had incidents like that. The wetlands are used as nursery for crabs, crawfish actually. So we have crayfish in Nevis. I've seen them in my backyard as well.
Okay.
Because I have a gut in my on my property. So I grew up seeing mountain mullet and crawfish, and I took a picture
And
of
mountain
them.
mullet is a fish or a shellfish? Is
A fish.
Okay.
Yeah. As an adult, it can get really big.
Okay.
But most of the scene is like this size. But some people use it as bait, where I've seen our brothers and sisters from the other territories use them to fish to go home and eat.
Okay.
Because, like I said, I don't know if we're bougie. We just prefer our ocean fish compared to the
Or
fresh water.
suspicious. Sometimes there are some types of suspicions and there are some myths about certain things that have been passed down for generations. But what's coming to mind as you describe, there's an area next to where the Hamilton Beach Resort is in Nevis that is coming to mind as a
Nelson Spring?
wetland.
Yeah, the
that
wetland,
you
yes. So that wetland.
Is that a white mangrove? Or?
So back in the day, it used to have white mangroves. Unfortunately, because of the development, most of those stuff were taken down. There have been several programs from Nevis Historical and Conservation Society. They have basically had launched several efforts through the past maybe 5 years of replanting as well as removing the invasive species, the cattails. So white and red had been planted along with coconut trees as well. So there's been success or failures. Unfortunately, cattle have eaten some of the mangroves, that kind of stuff. But yes, that's one of the areas. Right now, there's a project right there that is working in terms of trapping the pollution upstream so it doesn't enter into the ocean.
Okay, so the white, the black, and the red are types of mangroves that
Yes.
grow in different environments according to perhaps
Yes.
water,
So you would
chemistry, and
find,
so on.
yeah, if you're lucky, you'll find them all within each other.
Okay.
The red, you will know red easily either if it's in bloom, having the seeds because it looks like a nice little bullet, long
okay.
bullet, or you go check in terms of the roots. The roots is like they're on stilts.
Oh, yes.
So the
I've seen them.
yes, so the
Yeah.
roots anchor into the soils
Right.
and makes it easier to trap like garbage. So you can go in and take out the garbage easy. They hold the soil together that it, say if a storm comes in,
Right.
it's protecting your property inland. So that's one of the thing we call that. You look for green engineering instead of just having the hardcore engineering in terms of the seawalls and the groins and that kind of stuff. You can protect the beach or coastline by having mangroves or coconut trees, Caribbean almond, and fortify your coastline with that as well.
Okay, this is really very educational, I think, for a lot of our listeners as well, who didn't have necessarily the benefit of pursuing some of these courses like geography, environmental science, that type of thing. And for me, even, when I go to the beach, or as I'm driving along the coastline, I can consider it through a different lens. And we know that in St. Kitts, for example, along the Bay Road, Old Road, and so on, we've had to look at ways in which we can manage our relationship with the ocean that sometimes comes for its land, so that we can continue to traverse the road as we wish. And I often wonder, because I imagine sometimes there are green engineering solutions that may be a bit more costly or maybe a bit more difficult or time consuming, because if you have to grow a mangrove system or something, it's going to be a lot more time consuming.
It takes it's very time consuming. So most times when we are brought in terms of my department, we analyze the area, see how it's being affected, and we can do a mix, or we basically go for the soft engineering first, then we go to the hard engineering. It all depends on, you try to see how the rate at which the area is being eroded. Because if you put hard engineering down, unfortunately, it may impact someone downstream.
Right.
So that's the really tricky situation.
Yeah, I remember learning about that too. And I'm actually witnessing that over time, because I've been on the planet long enough to have seen that in a couple of islands where, there's been some hard engineering undertaken on one coastal area, and then you've seen a change further down according to the currents and that type of thing.
Longshore drift, it does impact. Mangroves are very effective in trapping the garbage.
I never thought about that.
When you look at it, trap the garbage, the siltation. So this help minimize the impact in the ocean. Like, say if you had a reef there, the reef is not smothered. The garbage is not going into the ocean. So the plastic bags, which we banned, so that is not going, and a turtle is not thinking that is, say, a jellyfish and eat it. Because we are finding many pieces of plastics are in our turtles, even our fish.
I
so
saw a
even
study on
that, fish are seabirds, the plastic molecules.
Microplastic. I've seen that there's microplastic in a lot of the fish that we eat now, because the ocean has so many microplastics within it.
And a lot of it is coming from land-based. So most of the concept you have to look is like, yes, the blue economy, we definitely need to explore more and see what St. Kitts and Nevis have to offer, but we also have to protect, starting from inland, to protect what's in our sea. So that's how my brain works. We definitely have to look what's happening on the land and minimize any impact into the sea, so that we can work in terms of preserving what is there, as well as building what we can to maximize the best for us, generate livelihoods for our people. Because if you're telling a fisherman, hey, we have this protected area, the fisherman is like, what, I can't fish? They're going to act that way. And say,
the fisherman will not feel protected by the area that is protecting the fish.
So you have to find a solution to say, okay, no, we're not saying you can't do any fishing. How about tap into sea eggs, sea cucumbers? So there's...
Sorry.
But it's just... There's a market to other places like China. So there's market. Or,
I have seen that on the Food Network.
Or there's some territories where Australia is looking into like scalp, and is to put into are makeup, cosmetics.
Oh,
So you
okay.
got to look in terms of that.
Yeah.
They do have some of these creatures that can be used medicinally or cosmetic wise. So these are stuff that needs to explore, but make sure we keeps our rights.
Yes,
We don't want
yeah.
someone comes in, make the big bucks, and we're like, wait, our samples are gone, but where's our money? We need to get that right. So we
As you
have to
s-
always look in that part.
Yeah, as you say that, it just reminded me, shout out to a very good friend of mine, Georgette Briggs, Dr. Georgette Briggs, who did research at some point in her studies on the Trinidad guppy. And it was looking at the colors in the scales. I think it had something to do with paint and so like when you're looking at the way in color combinations for paint and nail polish and all those types of things, it was something and I found it was just fascinating because it was outside of what I had thought of in terms of the maritime resources, that type of thing. So we're going to cut to break again, but when we come back, Yvette, you mentioned about the introduction of the professional doctorate, and as I'm listening to Thema and as I'm thinking about hard engineering, soft engineering, etc., it is something that we miss often when we think about doctorates is the opportunity for research that is specific to a particular region. So perhaps we could look at some of the research topics that would be particularly interesting. I had the opportunity a couple of years ago to attend the PMAC conference in Suriname, and that was a fabulous experience. That is the Port Management Association of the Caribbean, and that's where I was also introduced to WEMAC because I met a representative there, and I learned so much about what is happening in the region in terms of our seaports, in terms of our shipping routes and abilities and capacities, because in our little islands we also manage some massive ships, and that's something that is really quite phenomenal and perhaps a little bit unsung. So when we come back, we're going to hear a bit more about all of that. So we're going to take a little break. We're going to hear from our sponsors as we close off the first hour of Creative Voices. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after the break.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
It's in the feeling in our we talk. It's in the meaning in our spot. It is the thing that sets us apart. Who we are. 'Cause the rhythm of life keeps bumping. Together going strong. No matter what, we keep things flowing. Before we will go all in. Our hands up in the sky. Celebrating. Come let your rhythm flow.
Come, build with us at Hostels Building and Nevis Centers. We don't just sell materials, we help you build your dreams. Whether it's a new home, a renovation, or a DIY project, we're here to make it happen. That's why we say, build with us. From foundation to finish, come to our stores where we have the best in building materials, hardware, tools, paints, expert advice, and more. Whatever you need, you can count on us. So if you're ready to get started, build with us. With Hostels Building and Nevis Centers, you're not just building a structure, you're building a future. Let us help you create something amazing. Dream with us, plan with us, grow with us, build with us. Come build with us at Hostels Building and Nevis Centers today. Build with us at Hostels.
Welcome to Bougainvillea Books and Gifts, where every visit is a journey through time and imagination. Step into a world of literary wonders at our boutique bookstore, where every book tells a story and every corner holds a treasure waiting to be discovered. Immerse yourself in the enchanting aromas of our scented candles, perfect for creating a cozy atmosphere in any space. Explore our exquisite handcrafted jewelry, whether you're searching for the perfect gift for that special someone or simply indulging in a little self-care. Bougainvillea Books and Gifts has something for everyone.
You are back and tuned into Creative Voices. Welcome back. We have been having a wonderful conversation with Thema Ward and Yvette Smith Johnson, looking at all things marine and maritime. Again, these are terms that sometimes the layperson uses interchangeably because clearly they are connected. But I think something that is evolving very beautifully from the discourse with both of you is that they can be quite distinct. They're interconnected, but then you're looking at ecosystems and biological components of the wetlands, the sea, and so on. But then also there's a lot of business that takes place on our oceans. So Yvette, can you unpack that a little bit for us, for those of us who, it's they say out of sight, out of mind. So for many people, because we may travel via air, so we have an idea of what's happening at our airports, we might see the sea, but this business of the hard engineering for the coastal areas, the piloting, and then you were speaking about all of these doctorates that are now being launched through the Caribbean Maritime University, which to me provide an awesome opportunity for some very detailed research to be undertaken by our practitioners that can help to sustain us and inform our policies going forward. So can you just kind of unpack for us a bit about what happens in the business of our maritime states?
Thank you, Sarah, for posing the question that way. And I'm going to try to give a very lay perspective because
Thank
people who are
you.
professional practitioners in either space may label things differently.
Okay.
But off the cuff, when we speak about what is marine, we tend to refer to what is in the natural environment, the coastal characteristics, the things that are resident in the ocean, that's part and parcel of sea life. So if we were to talk about Sebastian from The Little Mermaid, he is marine life, right?
Okay.
Um, what is under the sea is marine. But when we get into the maritime space, we tend to speak about what crosses, where human activity crosses what is natural to the sea.
Okay.
And this is a heavily managed and regulated space because we are told that marine business is one of the oldest
True.
business that we know of. And those of us who are heavily faith-based will talk about Noah's Ark, and we tend to say as old as Noah's Ark. And that was a craft made for sailing. Maritime business has to be regulated because all the seas and oceans link up as a sustained, continuable resource for all people. And so when we started to get into agreements especially post World War II, where the United Nations and out of the UN came so many different groupings that govern, as a soft word, the things that we do so that they are sustainable and fair and equitable. Out of that came the International Maritime Organization, out of that era. And the IMO does have a lot to say about the maritime resources of the world. When the Titanic sank, for example, we hear the term when they said sinkable, unthinkable, but it did sink. And so the IMO had to start to say, how do we secure lives at sea? And so out of that came the safety of life at sea, the SOLAS Convention, where we talk about when you travel, what ought to be done, how many lifeboats, that sort of thing. And generally, there has emerged regulation for marine business, maritime business, sorry. The marine environment, as our colleague Thema helps us to understand, is still being studied. We're still theorizing what ought and what ought not to be done. There was a time when none of us across the region would eat the lionfish, which was, by the way, an invasive species to our region because it's an Asian what is that now? Fauna, right? But the IMO, seeing that invasive species will go from space to space, regulates what we ought to do with things like ballast water that is pumped into a ship. When we take containers off a ship that has journeyed from China to our region, the ship becomes very light because we have removed a couple thousand 40-foot containers that were laden with stuff off it. And so those who are taking the ship from point A to point B pump water into a part of the vessel to stabilize the vessel. It's known as ballast water. But when they get to where they're going, when they pump in ballast water traditionally, they would take up all the marine life in from that space, like the lionfish, like the invasive cockles and those things that have come to our region, like some of the seaweeds that plague our region. And then when they come into our region, they would dump it off in our waters and leave behind in species that have no natural predators, and they overwhelm us. Now the IMO says, the regulation says if you are pumping up ballast water, it has to be treated at on site to kill those species so that when we let it out in another region of the world, they are not carrying an invasive species. And so maritime business becomes a serious and heavily regulated business, not just for safety of persons on board vessel, but persons in the ports to which those vessels come. Right now, we are all as a region under the agreement that by 2050 we must decarbonize our marine fuel, or the fuel that we're using to take, I keep saying marine and maritime, but remember the distinctions. We must decarbonize so that we stop depleting the air that we breathe and the society we live in of oxygen, because we're pumping out so much carbon. Carbon emissions are killing us. And so all ports have to start to think now, when ships come to us, how do we check them that they are using the correct fuel? And all people who charter and do brokering of ships have to now say, okay, if we're sending a ship out, how do we get the right kind of fuel? How do we move away from heavy carbon fuels, coal burn, things that we get from coal and oil, and how do we move to new biofuels, etc.? Who's going to pay the cost of that? So if I charter a vessel to take some Audis from Germany to the region, and we leave some in St. Kitts and take some of the cars to Jamaica, who's going to pay the cost of that vessel with this new expensive fuel? And so when we start to talk about maritime business like that, we realize that we do need engineers. We need people who are looking at differentiated fuels. How do we make some fuel? How do we, because we are into shipping, we are not into fuel making, but we now have to have people saying, how do we lower the emissions? And so there's a whole science out there, Sarah, about how do we, if the ship is new, we can build them with scrubbers that get in the engine and ensure that the carbon emission is lower. And I don't know, I can only speak to it in theory. If the ship is old and we can't scrap it, how do we probably retrofit with some scrubbers, or how do we get some wind turbines on them so we use less of this destructive fuel and more of that? And that's just on the engineering side. There's the chemistry of it all, and then there is the pure business. Who is paying for it? Most of what we consume in the region, we neither create nor grow, and that's the truth. Where are we taking it from? So the business end of brokering, charting, warehousing, planning for cargo's movement, all of that has to be taught to people who have more than a competency in a little portion of it, but people who must now have the cognitive awareness of what is happening and can pivot in the region to make the business something that we can continue. That kind of thing only comes with education and training. And so, first, rolling out diplomas and associate degrees where people have entry level competence was sufficient. Then we moved across the region to the bachelor degrees where people are able to do and with learning the competency to manage. But we had to move to graduate degrees so that people could ideate with people who are
Right.
moving goods and services from the largest ports in the world, the ports of Rotterdam, etc. Because in the region we have one of the larger ports you know, we do have Panama in our region. It might not be Caribbean, but it's Latin America, and Latam and the Caribbean hold hands all the time.
Right.
And there we have the what should I say, the secret to um to a shorter turnover time. We have the Panama Canal. We have students who have left from the Caribbean Maritime Institute who are university, but at that time it was institute, who are working in different parts of the region and are working right there in the free zone, in the canal, wherever, seeing that the shipping business continues. So we realize now that we have to move from managers and you know, every academic degree is really a tool to take people into wider service. Hence, we are now at the place where we have to ideate at the level of discipline leaders. And so that's where CMU ideated that we do need a doctoral degree that is applied to the professional spaces, a practice-based research for this degree rather than the joy of just doing research. We have to improve the practice of shipping and the attending businesses that are attached to shipping. And in CMU, we like to say the maritime and allied disciplines. So we want to see academic scholarship with workplace-based inquiry to produce solutions that improve the profession of the maritime and shipping business. And so we are thinking that in that space, we want to see people conducting research in areas such as logistics and shipping, maritime communication, engineering, and very importantly, as you kind of hinted, Sarah, tech adoption, because we are now at a place where we have to be willing to pivot. We have, I mean, we have in parts of the globe automated ships. There's no
Wow.
crew on board. So we need, you know, we used to prepare what the military would call able-bodied seamen, people who can run up and down on board ship, etc. But we have to be also producing what we call electrotechnical officers, people who can stay somewhere on shore somewhere and direct the movement of a vessel that has no crew, because that's normalizing now. I mean, by the time we are going to the Mars regularly, or the moon for tourism, we will realize that we have to adopt to tech every few weeks. So we are looking at that. Then there is tourism and the blue economy, because people still want to see the world and people want to go by ship. And one of the things that we learned from COVID-19 is that one of the quickest industry to shut down, while commercial shipping was seen as a crucial, what we call an essential service, cruise shipping shut down immediately and stayed down for a while. And so we
Yeah.
still have to look at how we function in that space. And then there is always a question of security. And now we are moving from securing fixed and visible assets to securing things online, because that's where most of our business take place. And so we're inviting people who are leading in these spaces with their graduate degrees to come in and let's take another look at it with the doctoral programs. Um, all the graduate degrees that we offer at CMU, all our master's degrees are done fully online.
Okay.
That's why we have students from different spaces. And then this doctoral program will for because it's because something we're rolling out. We will look at a blended method first, and as we move on, we will sharpen it so that distance and those things can be accommodated. We are in the process of locking up our first cohort, but this is something that we will advertise to the region shortly, and we will see how we have take up for people who realize that there are other things that we can do. We in Jamaica, Tima spoke about her CSEC student, Cape Logistics students. I want to give you a fun fact that when CXC wanted to launch Cape Logistics, the chief examiner and the first item writers came from the Caribbean Maritime University. We are still very proud of that.
Awesome.
And no, we don't have we neither have an eye nor a finger on it anymore because competent people elsewhere are managing it now. But we do see ourselves as a flagship institution in the Caribbean after 40 years and leading the change that we need to have at the education, the academic level, because we hold our own with people across the globe. But when we come to high income countries, we realize that education is what makes a difference. And we're not talking about, ladies and listeners, we're not talking about having a scrap of paper with your name on it that says Professor or Dr. So and so. We're talking about being able to theorize based on practice and to make solid calls because we are aware of not just the practice but the theory so that we grow new theories about how things work for us in marine culture and maritime culture in the Caribbean. So for us at CMU and something we want to say to the region, and we've had copious conversations. CMU has a campus of sorts in Suriname, and a
Okay.
number of our graduates are from other places. In the same way that UE leads in liberal arts degrees, we want to say when it comes to the maritime community, we are together in this thing, and we call out our colleagues in the other spaces, and we have an interesting synergy and an exciting synergy, given especially the fact that the IMO tends to, let's call expertise not just in one space but everywhere, because the IMO maritime the IMO has an maritime technology corporation and center in Trinidad, and MTCC Caribbean is there, and so we align as we go, and we hope that this alignment will redound to the development of scholarship in the region, as you said earlier, a region of maritime states, and how it works for us. Person shouldn't come from outside of our region to tell us what works for us. We should have leading academics in the region who are able to speak about what works for us. So
Very
I
true.
hope that was helpful, Sarah.
Yeah, exceptionally so. And I just want to give a special plug to the professional doctorates because I have a professional doctorate in education. And I found that it was immediately useful because of the applied nature of that type of study. So everything that I was doing, I actually was able to apply straight away. So every paper I wrote, every research project I engaged in, I was able to apply to an institution that I was working with or a
Right.
ministry that I worked with, and so that I could really, in fact, the way that I approached some of the work was that more than a program of study, I felt like I had a team of academics to help me to make sure that the work I was doing was valid and valuable. So I would maybe write a green paper or maybe, a white paper, write a policy, do some type of research, but then in the grading process, because it is an academic exercise, I would also receive feedback from other academics
Right.
to say, explore this, or, there's an issue with this particular context, or whatever it may be, so that by the time I produce the work, it is more valuable to the entity that I'm working with. So I think that there is, tremendous excitement for me anyway around this concept of applied learning and the ability within our maritime space to put this research into very practical use. I have to say that the idea of automated ships is both terrifying and exciting, and it's simultaneously terrifying and exciting. So I had one of those, kind of facial reactions that's part like horror and part excitement, because to the layperson and to, somebody, I suppose, people react to these concepts that are so new and so dynamic in different ways based on your point of reference. And we've had on this program before the Robotics Association in St. Kitts and Nevis, and there's a lot of exciting work that's being done. And I was just having a conversation yesterday about the enthusiasm and around the students who are working at the secondary school level, post-secondary school level, but having avenues for that to transition into their adult lives, their careers within the Caribbean space if they choose to remain here. There are lots of opportunities, or there are some opportunities, but I think what you're sharing with us here coming out of the CMU is very exciting too, because they can be part of that cutting edge technology to drive arguably one of the most, or not arguably, one of the most definitely, but arguably perhaps the most important economic driver for our maritime states.
So there's something I must share, Sarah. And
Please, go
give me a
ahead.
minute. We annually, all the heads of maritime administrations across the region, the Caribbean region, meet in one of the countries of the region. And the International Maritime Organization has a look-see at, how things are progressing under the regulations and the strategic initiatives that they encourage. And island nations, and I'm careful to say island nations, as I said, Belize, Guyana,
Yes.
Suriname, right? So our territories get to say, this is what we're doing right in light of the Millennium Development Goals, which are now the Sustainable Development Goals.
Okay.
So we say, Goal 13, that has to do with the nation, the ocean. This is how we are ensuring this. We say Goal 5, which I'm particularly caught up with, because Goal 5 speaks to the equality of women and girls. And in the Women in Maritime Association, it's something we advocate and we move from space to space. So when I have to go to that meeting, or whomever is head of the GC at WEMAC, so it was once Tamara Lowe James from Dominica / Antigua. We had Dwinette Eversley of Trinidad and Tobago, and we had Claudia Grant of Jamaica. So different ones of us get to go and represent what we're doing. Now, in my most recent meeting, the IMO in doing its part to see to the development of women and girls says, that there are some jobs that there must be a ratio. So, for example, if every member state who is hiring certain technical roles, for every 2 men that they hire, must hire a woman.
Okay.
So we are cheering because we're saying this is amazing. But then one of our member states said, but look at us. We need 6 ship surveyors to ensure that our port is optimal each day. And a ship surveyor is responsible for inspecting and assessing the condition of ships and their cargo and the marine operations when they come into our ports, to ensure that all is well, all is decent and in order. And this particular member state says we only have 4. Why? Because we are able to hire the 2 males in each part of the ratio, 2 to 1. But we have not yet found one woman in this particular space who can do the job or is certified to do the job. So it means that my call and WEMAC's call has to pivot from, thank you for the ratio, we are not ungrateful, but then a ratio without a strategy for the empowerment of women through education is really problematic. And I didn't want to be rude, because in Jamaica we say poppy show, because without somebody, so why not find a brilliant young woman in this space coming out of FEMA's class, or FEMA herself, because she can probably carry a change.
All
Why
right.
not find somebody in that space and send them somewhere where the training is done, and allow them to come back to the territory as the 1 in 2? You understand? So education and competence is intricately linked. Training and certification has to be hard. It's not sufficient to have any gender, more so women who are marginalized in their own ways say, okay, I've done this job, but I know how to do it, but I'm not certified. No, we want people to be doing all levels of academic certification. And CMU does not have to be the place, but I would love for it to be the place.
Well, I would love for it to be the place too, because in listening to you, I'm even thinking I need to pivot and go and find something to do at CMU, because I'm learning more and more, mainly through the work of my husband and the interest of my son as well. It has
Come on.
put me into this, this area of interest, and really kind of
importance of
yes,
education.
that is it. The importance.
Education is a national, I'm going to repeat something that I heard the Charge d'Affaires of the U.S. Embassy, Scott Renner in Jamaica, say, that education is a national security prerogative. We cannot ensure sustained viability of our nation states unless we are educating people, not skills only, but the skill and the academic. And we don't have to make it theoretical and 10 years. We can do the professional courses, but people must stand shoulder to shoulder with those across the globe who are able to show, tell, and do, and be qualified to so do. So that's where my passion is.
Yeah.
And that's where in WeMark we're saying, find the women, link them with those who are ahead of them and are gainfully employed and properly trained. Let them coach and mentor them. Thankfully, the Caribbean Shipping Association, you said you went to the Port Management Association meeting. WeMark has MOUs with both spaces, PMAC and the CSA, amongst other spaces like the OAS, Organization of American States, Committee in Ports for capacity development. We try to get the women in WeMark aligned to these places. We go to the discussion forums, we look for opportunities, and it's translating into good proper opportunities, because in 2025 we finished 2 tranches of a mentorship program through the CSA, where entry-level professionals who are WeMark members were tied to, paired with CSA middle and top managers to learn some of the things, because some of them are the soft skills like the emotional intelligence.
Right, yes, very important.
Stuff. So we are big on education in all categories.
That is amazing. So we are going to have to cut to break to hear from our second hour sponsors. So we have the good people at Hosford's. So SL Hosford's has been our long-standing sponsor, and we're truly grateful. Try Hosford's first. You could get everything you need from Hosford's, from your eggs to your vehicle to your you name it, to your lumber. There are so many opportunities available to us through Hosford's, and we also have Bougainvillea Books and Gifts, where we build community around Caribbean creativity. That's up at Shadwell, Great House, and there are always wonderful things happening there. So we're going to take a pause for a cause, and we'll be right back with more exciting and engaging dialogue on the blue economy.
Campari, Red Passion, embrace the mix.
Campari, Red Passion, full action, this is Red Passion. Embrace the mix, add Campari, make it turn and twist. Add your chaser in your drink. Campari, Red Passion, make the nicest mix.
Campari Red Passion, embrace the mix. Must be 18 years or older to drink. Drink responsibly.
It's in the feeling and how we talk. It's in the meaning and our spot. It is the thing that sets us apart. Who we are. Cause the rhythm of life keeps bumping. Together going strong. No matter what, we keep things flowing. Before we will go all in. Our hands up in the sky. Celebrating. Come let your rhythm flow.
Come, build with us at Hostels Building and Nevis Centers. We don't just sell materials, we help you build your dreams. Whether it's a new home, a renovation, or DIY project, we're here to make it happen. That's why we say, build with us. From foundation to finish, come to our stores where we have the best in building materials, hardware, tools, paints, expert advice, and more. Whatever you need, you can count on us. So if you're ready to get started, build with us. With Hostels Building and Nevis Centers, you're not just building a structure, you're building a future. Let us help you create something amazing. Dream with us, plan with us, grow with us, build with us. Come build with us at Hostels Building and Nevis Centers today. Build with us at Hosford's.
Welcome to Bougainvillea Books and Gifts, where every visit is a journey through time and imagination. Step into a world of literary wonders at our boutique bookstore, where every book tells a story and every corner holds a treasure waiting to be discovered. Immerse yourself in the enchanting aromas of our scented candles, perfect for creating a cozy atmosphere in any space. Explore our exquisite handcrafted jewelry, whether you're searching for the perfect gift for that special someone or simply indulging in a little self-care. Bougainvillea Books and Gifts has something for everyone.
Welcome back. We are back, and you are tuned into Creative Voices. Boy, have we been having a great conversation today. We have been speaking with Theme Award. I'm your host, Sarah Owen, and we've been speaking with Yvette Smith-Johnson. We've learned so much about marine resources, maritime industries, the blue economy overall. And before I get into my next kind of line of questioning, for want of a better phrase, Thema, you remembered something that you want to share with us, the NGOs that you were speaking of.
Oh, the NGOs we were speaking of is the Reef Guardian. Shout out to Reef Guardians and Roots. Reef Guardians in St. Kitts, but has cohorts in Nevis, and there's Roots stationed out of Nevis by Jazzy.
Okay, excellent. And as we're speaking about, environmental studies and so on, and those programs in St. Kitts, I want to give a special shout to the late, great Dr. Leighton Narayan, who did some phenomenal work in St. Kitts and Nevis. So, I'm thinking of him a lot as we're speaking about this type of activity, because he is somebody that after a program like this, I might have reached out to and touched base with and looked at what we can do collectively going forward. And I was thinking also, Yvette, when you were speaking, you used the word ideation a lot, which I love, because that is a big part of what the Creative Voices program is all about. Because there are lots of problems surely that we could highlight, but that's taken care of quite well. But the beauty is that there are also, with each problem, there are multiple solutions. And so in speaking with practitioners in the field and in looking at training that's available, and in a previous hat, one of the roles that I really loved was that I worked with the UWI in continuing and professional education, and this concept of stackable credentials, of credentialing at many levels so that you have your certification. It's done a lot in fields like IT and accounting and so on, but finance, but also, Yvette, in listening to you in terms of those opportunities that exist for credentialing. I'm sure, because you spoke quite a bit about the IMO as well, which is the International Maritime Organization. And there's, a lot of opportunity for people who are interested. They may have been practitioners for quite some time, and then they can look at gaining certification that allows them international movement. I was, again, as I said, I've been now introduced to different things that occur within this space that I had not been familiar with through the work of my husband and the interests of my son. And I recently learned about people who are, have careers in diving where, in parts of the world, they would go and remain under water for a period of time because they are maybe laying cables, pipes, taking data samples, but it's too far down for them to go down and come back up, and how that affects their oxygen intake. So they end up intaking more helium and then speak with a very high-pitched voice and that was mind-boggling to me because I'd never heard of it, That was brand new to me. And then I also was thinking back as I listened to you all speak on and there are Caribbean people who do that, by the way, that type of diving, that type of professional diving. And I understand it's quite lucrative work as well because of how niche it is and how dangerous it is. And I also thought back to a project that the UWI had launched some time ago, and I found a little reference to it in the Vice Chancellor's report to Council 2324, which was the Green Revolution on Wheels, is what the title refers to it as, the world's first sargassum-powered vehicle. So within this project, the University of the West Indies Cave Hill campus unveiled the world's first vehicle powered by renewable natural gas that's sourced from an unlikely trio, is how they frame it, which is sargassum seaweed, rum distillery wastewater, and black belly sheep manure. So I don't know if you all are familiar with this project.
Not that
No.
particular project, but similar projects, yes.
Good, because similar projects is where I want to go next, because I am going to ask a question along the lines of innovation, because you spoke of ideation, we spoke of innovation in the global sense, but also anything that comes to mind in terms of, because that those things came to me as innovative. So this idea, which may not be innovative of, because it may have been happening for a long time, but I'm sure the way in which it's operating now in terms of divers being, housed below a particular level so that they can conduct particular types of work, but also this renewable energy project using the sargassum seaweed. I've seen like a few things come up, a few conferences and so on. Are there any innovations in blue or marine biotechnology that you can think of that you've seen globally or regionally that can help to advance the blue economy? Anything that you'd like to update us on, share with us that you've seen that you've found particularly interesting?
You have areas in Mexico, Santo Domingo, where they use sargassum for building materials, whether building blocks or drywall, that kind of stuff. So I found it rather interesting. You had our brothers and sisters, say Martinique and Guadeloupe, years ago sampling it in terms of using it as fertilizer. Some use it part of the soaps, arts and crafts, or jewelry. So they found many various ways to try to deal with how it's impacting their coastline, their beach, that in later on chain reaction impact tourism. The tourist comes to go to the beach. We go want to go to the beach, but the scent alone or the look of it is not beauty enough. So we avoid it. So they had to find many ways instead of just picking it up and dump it or toss it somewhere. They found very ways to deal with the issues that they're facing.
So looking at something that presents initially as a problem, but realizing where it is actually a solution, like it's a resource.
Yeah.
So, I sometimes I think about that. I don't have the skill set or the knowledge or the time, I suppose, to learn how to do these things. But I'm thinking that, that's a beautiful natural resource that is being, kind of presented to us. The ocean is sort of throwing it on the sand. And we could either say, oh, this stuff stinks and the marine life, they're dying in it and we don't like how it smells and we don't like how it looks. Or we could say, hey, thanks for this crop that we can now use and turn into fuel. We can now use and turn into shoes. We can now use and turn into fertilizer or whatever the case may be. Yvette, anything popping up on your radar in the innovative space?
One of the degrees that I did not mention, we have at CMU a faculty of engineering and applied technology. And that faculty does the what should I say, we do hard engineering skills. So we twin marine engineering, we put that in the mix with electrical and mechanical engineering to do all sorts of exciting things like work with power plants. But one of our newest degrees out of that faculty is a Bachelor of Science in Marine Biotechnology.
Okay.
We started with a kind of under kind of, it's not really an MOU, but we went into it with the University of the West Indies Mona because some of the labs we didn't have, but we recognized that we could use some of the same competencies, skill sets to solve problems in our space. And so we do have students who are finishing as their final project for that, because out of the Faculty of Engineering, they have to prototype something. At the undergrad level, they are tinkering around. But I want to say safely that the deputy dean in that faculty and our president has, I don't remember how much, but they have some grant funded research being done, the grants coming out of the UK looking at the possibilities for sargassum seaweed. And I think all of us have to be looking at it because it is so, I mean, from the sky, you can see our beaches brown and This is not something it seemed that was endemic to our area, but no, we have to treat with it. So yes, we do have some local research going on. And then there is what is happening out of the University of the West Indies right across the space, because we have to look at this thing must be caused by some bioactivity. So as a layperson, I can say that. So I know that we're trying to see how that can help us. So we are keeping our ears open. And as CMU does its own research, it will report openly, because that's the nature of research, on what we find. But all of us are working through some space there.
Yeah. And are there any things that come to mind in terms of how perhaps the youth and community can become engaged? We did hear about camps, but perhaps if there are people who are
I think
interested.
as we grow in what we're doing, we'll have to scale up to camps and scale up. But I think all of us are generally working on an understanding of the thing
Yeah.
before we go into the secondary activities, gathering, as in how we reap if we have to get it in bulk, and how we teach the young minds about it. But I still think that we are doing exploratory work at the
Okay.
moment, and probably that's why we have not yet progressed. Like we know where we are with the beach, so we camp and we clean up the beach and we do all sorts of things. So I think we are still at that space of exploring.
Right. So maybe like an expansion of, because I know something that immediately comes to mind in terms of community involvement, generally speaking, in terms of our coastal areas, is the
Coastal
cleanups.
cleanups, yeah.
So the coastal cleanups. Interestingly, I was a member of a group that was engaged in regular beach cleanups. And I've also been part of a group that put up some signs to, in an artistic way, encourage people not to litter on the beach and that type of thing. But then I was informed that with that came this perception that it's okay, you can leave your garbage on the beach because the cleanup people will come and clean it up.
Wow.
So it was having an adverse effect. It's
Right.
that was
I can
completely
imagine. I can imagine.
yeah, it was not something that was considered at the point of the beach cleanups, and then it was something that happened. So instead of seeing a decrease
You saw an
in litter,
increase.
you're seeing an increase because of this perception that I know from my recollection in Barbados, there, whatever would be comparable to our parks and beaches, they have people that are employed, I believe, by the government to clean the beaches every day. But also, I don't see as much litter, but I mean, they're receptacles, and they also have bathrooms where perhaps you pay a nominal fee to use the bathrooms, and similar to what we have a bit at the marina by Port Zante, maybe. But these are all things that perhaps we can do to have a greater community awareness, because when you have an edifice like that, you can put up some type of public awareness signage that will tell you maybe a
And I
little
think,
bit about that information. Yes,
yeah,
Yvette.
yeah. And I think both you and Thema would agree that to do without educating is dangerous.
Exactly,
And
yeah.
so I am a great advocate for what has to go into the overt curriculum. Some things can't be left to, we used to say extracurricular, now we say
Yes.
co-curricular. Some things can't be left to co-curricular operations only. We have to do direct instruction.
Yeah.
We have to teach our youngest citizens in an overt way in their curriculum that this is our environment is harmed by certain action, and we have to make it. One of the things I realized when I checked my sons, I have a 10-year-old, when I checked his social studies curriculum and I was trying to get sample questions, I realized that we were teaching the same thing across the Caribbean, because some of the amazing little videos that I got on my community were out of Guyana. And I was like, I love this, I need to find this for him. So we are all teaching some of the same things, because in some ways we're similar. And so we have to embed in our curriculum, in our governments, and it's one of the levels of activity that we have to do in the Women in Maritime Association. Can we insert one topic in our curriculum? If we're teaching the environment, can we talk about the fishermen? Can we talk about the cruise ship that is in the harbor? Can we take them on a field trip to see that? Can it be a part of, we have to decide in a very clear way what kind of Caribbean citizen we want by 2050. And then we have to strategically cultivate a consciousness of that citizen in the curriculum. And so Thema having them at sixth form when they're almost 19 years old is amazing. But can you imagine if we were doing it when they were just 9 years old?
Yeah.
Right.
You know, it's interesting that you said what type of citizen, because that's something that just triggered a memory that I had seen coming out of, I think, a CARICOM strat plan maybe a decade or so ago. There was this detailing or description of the ideal Caribbean citizen. Of course, that's kind of problematic because ideal feels a bit prescriptive, but I think along those lines, they did include it included environmental responsibility. So the ideal Caribbean citizen understands the importance of living in harmony with the environment and contributing to sustainable development. And I used to refer to this a lot in my own curriculum development days because, you know, concepts of the ideal aside, you know, there were some wonderful benchmarks to work towards. And if we're all, as I say, singing from the same hymn sheet, then we're all designing programs that enable what we collectively visualize as the ideal. It included respect for human life and diversity, emotional security as self-confidence. So there are things within the community, within the individual, but also within the environment. I'm not sure what happened to that process, if it made it into new strategies. I would have to do some research to find that out. But we're going to take a break to hear from our sponsors before you wrap. I can't believe that we're at the end of the program and we have so many unexplored elements of the blue economy still, which means that we can perhaps look at a subsequent show sometime later on in the year maybe, and we can continue this wonderful discussion. So we're going to take a break. When we come back, we usually like to close out with some words of advice from our practitioners who are with us as guests on the program. So we'll take a break. We'll hear from our sponsors. When we come back, we've already had some phenomenal advice from both of you, and I'm so grateful for that. I did say when I emailed you, I thought it, I'm not sure if I wrote it, but I did think that I would emerge from this show a lot more knowledgeable than I was at the beginning of it. And I can say that that is definitely true. And I'm very grateful to both of you for that. So we're going to take a break. We're going to hear from our sponsors, and we'll be right back after the break.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Welcome to Bougainvillea Books and Gifts, where every visit is a journey through time and imagination. Step into a world of literary wonders at our boutique bookstore, where every book tells a story and every corner holds a treasure waiting to be discovered. Immerse yourself in the enchanting aromas of our scented candles, perfect for creating a cozy atmosphere in any space. Explore our exquisite handcrafted jewelry, whether you're searching for the perfect gift for that special someone or simply indulging in a little self-care. Bougainvillea Books and Gifts has something for everyone.
Build with us at Hostels Building and Nevis Centers. We don't just sell materials, we help you build your dreams. Whether it's a new home, a renovation, or a DIY project, we're here to make it happen. That's why we say, build with us. From foundation to finish, come to our stores where we have the best in building materials, hardware, tools, paints, expert advice, and more. Whatever you need, you can count on us. So if you're ready to get started, build with us. With Hostels Building and Nevis Centers, you're not just building a structure, you're building a future. Let us help you create something amazing. Dream with us, plan with us, grow with us, build with us. Come build with us at Hostels Building and Nevis Centers today. Build with us at Hostels.
Wonderful. We are back for our final 6 minutes of the program. Can you imagine? It has really been very, very, very enlightening. So thank you both. So as I promised before the break, I indicated that we would come back and we'd hear from each of you. If you can share with us what you would leave as some advice. You have a few minutes each, so I don't want to make it feel a little bit too abbreviated. So you can share, as you feel moved to do so, to share with our listeners anything that comes to mind as it relates to people who are interested in pursuing a path. What advice would you like to leave with our listeners, especially about their role or the role they can play in this journey?
In this journey, each one of us on this planet, we all have a role to basically make it better. And Sinkers and Nevis, there is so much potential. We just need to tap into it. Sometimes it's just the finance to get in, or someone bringing that innovative idea and it's like, oh, wow, I've never thought about that. So, what we like to get is tap into the younger generation. Apart from the six farmers, from the primary schoolers up, I have been attending fairs, job fairs, or even speaking in the high school, educating them on the different avenues of areas that you can venture in the geography field, marine biologist as well as maritime. So I've highlighted different areas, and many people never thought about it, or they will see an area and say, "Well, isn't that more for a man?" And you're trying to say, "No,
Wow.
women can do that." And I had the opportunity to have met women like Dr. Yvette and many other women being part of the women in Maritime Association in Caribbean. So when you hear these women talk about their profession, you're like, what? Wow, what? And you never thought you would hear it. So if I meet someone who asks me any question, I'm happy to give them the information or put them in contact with people like Dr. Yvette, that kind of stuff. That's just me. If you tell me you want to do something regarding the areas I'm in or within the maritime sector, marine, we said marine biologist, oh, Tracy, I'll show you her Facebook page.
Right.
Or belonging on a ship or being a technician on ships. Oh, my girl is Susie from Trinidad, who also worked. Yes.
Shout out to Susie.
Who also works at MTCC as well.
Okay.
And they were here recently in February. That is part of IMO work towards decarbonization. So they're actually supposed to, hopefully this year, set up wind turbine at Caspa.
Okay.
So yes, we are making waves, small waves for now, but we're getting there.
Small waves towards the tidal wave that's
Yes.
coming as we revolutionize the industry.
Yes.
So that is great. So is there any information you can share with our listeners in terms of contact information, perhaps if they want to reach out to you to find out if for all of our school administrators who may be listening, for NGOs who may be listening, is there anything you can share, maybe social media handle or some place that people can find you?
I work at the Department of Physical Planning and Environment in Nevis.
Okay.
And so you can get me through the switchboard, it's no problem. Also, I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. You just got to look up my name, Thema Ward, and I'll be happy to assist you.
Awesome, because we like it when the movement continues after the conversation at Creative Voices. So I like that very much. Yvette, over to you. What words of advice do you have for our listeners today?
Thema said all the WEMA things. Let me use this well. I want to say, Sarah, that that financing and policy alignment are crucial to change. Awareness is important also, and sometimes we have those three things standing as barriers because people are not aware, people don't know. We had girls from one of our amazing girls' schools in Jamaica coming in to our campus, and they did not know that they could be lawyers and still do maritime business. They figured if they wanted to come over here, they had to give up a dream.
Wow.
So awareness, then policy alignment, as I gave the example of one of our states needing the to find a woman who is trained and there's no woman. So financing comes. And I have to go back to being the WEMAT voice in this regard, that if we are going to have sustainable oceans and governance community that will allow us to be amazing maritime spaces where we can mobilize the community to live well, then half the community that is called women need to be in the game fully. And so, whether it is through education or coaching and mentorship, women have to come into the game, and we have to have some kind of financing of the training. We have all these spaces across the Caribbean. And so, my call is to say somebody has to lead the discussion about how we make our sisters and our cousins and our daughters and our aunts and ourselves as women come up to the table to be proper players. Somebody has to lead the charge. If we leave it to everybody, nobody will be in charge. So I would love to see a fully functioning Women in Maritime Association, St. Kitts and Nevis chapter leading this charge, where we can see the opportunities that are there. We can connect the women and the boys, because at no point are we saying we need to be one gender, but we want to connect people with the correct resources, whether they are educational or they are people or they are professional. And we want somebody to help identify, train, and connect people in this emerging sector for us, the blue economy, and ensure that the growth that we have as a region and as St. Kitts and Nevis is inclusive. So I
Thank you.
say yay for the WEMAC
Yes.
and in this chapter, and I say let's go for inclusive growth and let's connect for an innovation-driven space that will keep us right in the game where maritime business is concerned.
Well, on that note, I don't think we could think of a better note on which to conclude our program. And before the production team puts me in the naughty corner because we have to go to our midday news, I just want to express my sincere gratitude to both of you. Also to Tracy, who couldn't join us today, but she really is the woman behind making this dialogue possible and connecting. We heard from Thema about the way in which these ladies can connect people as well. So please keep
Dr.
in
Sarah,
touch.
you know how to find me.
Yes, definitely. And also at Bougainvillea, we do a lot of research and outreach work. So I think that this is the start of a beautiful friendship, which will last for a very long time. And I am hopeful that we can have you all back at some point on Creative Voices so we can continue this discussion. Thank you so much for spending the morning with us. We are out for today.
Bye, Dr. Yvette. Bye.
You found the sound. 98.9. Win FM.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first